Hey there once again, fellow flight simmers. So this video here is going to be kind of a little bit of a continuation to my previous one, in which the one I stated why it was so important to update your plugin to version 2.20 or higher. Now, this video here is going to be only for people who were already using SimVimX from version 2.19 or earlier. And in this video, we're going to be dealing with how to convert your old config files to the new format. And most importantly, how to break out and save your custom conversions into the new format. Okay, so it's funny how I was just thinking, I mentioned that in the last video a little bit, that I posted my first video about my little home setup here, which I don't really call a cockpit, it's just a little home setup. But it was over 5 years ago. And just thinking about it, it seems so crazy how time flies so fast. I mean, in my mind, it feels like it's only been like 3 years, but it's actually been a little bit over five, which is crazy. But anyways, that's besides the point. So we're going to go over to the website and we're going to start talking about this here. But before we get started with all that, I'm going to go ahead and go to my SimVimX folder so that we can talk about this a little bit here. So I think I remember mentioning on the previous video that you're going to see a new conv folder, which I would imagine stands for conversions or convert. So that's going to be where we're going to be saving all the custom conversions that we're going to create or we're going to extract out of our old configuration files. Okay, so right here you can see that I have a Airfoil Lab Cessna 172 data.config, and then I have the PA30 data.config. So if we open this one up, you'll notice that way at the bottom we have the conversion section, which is the custom commands and data refs that I had put in for this airplane. And also, if I open up my PA30 uh, DAT file or config file, you'll notice that there's a few of them in here too. For some reason, I feel like there's a lot of them missing here, but that's okay. It doesn't matter for the purposes of this video. Um, Another thing that's very important, and I mentioned that before, make sure that your devices.prf file is in your folder after you upgrade it to version 2.20, like I mentioned in the previous video, okay? And I also did mention that we are no longer going to need this rsc underscore planes dot dat file, because all those included conversions that were in that file that Vlad had put in there, they are now going to be separate conversion files. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one now, since we're no longer going to need it. All right. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I do have the latest DAT file, SimVimX.dat file, so that's all good. So we're going to be working with I'll work first with a Cessna 172 file, and then we'll do the other one. Okay, so now that we're on the website, we're going to go to the config tool, the new and improved config tool. So first thing we need to do is we need to open our old configuration file. So we click on config file here, and then we're going to navigate to that SimVimX folder where we have everything. And you can see that it sees the Airfoil Labs one and the PA31. So we're going to select the Airfoil Labs one first. We'll go to open, and right away you see that you get this pop-up window says this is an old file format. Select the plane conversion to load and save in the new format. So you can see that my Cessna 172 SP X-Plane 11 2015 in parentheses is down here. So I'll select it, and then once it's loaded, you can see over here on the side that it has the name of that file that I loaded, or the airplane that I'm working with, because that is the exact folder name that I had before. And right here in the middle, you can see that it actually has the name of the file the way I had renamed them. Because remember, I told you I used to rename them to whatever airplane that file was for after every time I used it. So for example, if I was going to use the Cessna 172, I would rename it to data.config. Then when I was finished with that one, if I was going to use the PA30, then I would rename this one Airfoil Labs Cessna 172.data, and then I would rename the PA31 data.config. Because remember, in order for the plugin to use the data file, it had to be called data.config. That's not the case anymore. Now we're going to have a separate configuration file for each airplane if that's what you want to do. Now, if you don't want to do that, if you just want to have one like before, you're just going to leave it and name it data.config. Okay, but I'm not going to do that because I've been wanting this feature for years already so that I wouldn't have to do this renaming stuff. So I am extremely happy about that. All right, so here we go. So now that we loaded the file, like I showed you on another video, you can see that all my assignments are in there. So it is loaded. Now, let's just say right now I don't want to make any changes to it. All I want to do is I want to save it in the new format. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to go to the box here in the middle where it has the name of the file, the way I had named it, and we're going to select it. And you can see that once again it says enter, paste the exact folder name for this configuration. So what I need to do is I go to my flight simulator folder in my aircraft, oops, and then I go to the airfoil labs, and then what I like to do so I don't make any mistakes is I right click on it and put rename, and then now that it's selected, you can either control C for copy or you can right click on it and put copy. And make sure you don't erase it or change anything, okay? Just leave it like that. And then we can come back to the website and we can erase whatever I had there and we can paste it, or just control V for paste. Now that you have the exact folder name, you click OK, and whenever the plugin and the simulator loads up, if you are using the airplane that's in the ACF file is in that folder, it will use this configuration file for that airplane. So that's what's so cool about it. So now we just put save config, and it's still right now it gives us a warning that any changes that you made might be lost, but that's not the case when you're saving it. And like I said, I think I seen Vlad said that he was going to get rid of these warnings when you're trying to save the configuration file and also the conversion file. So we'll just put leave, and of course you'll get your little pop-up window here, and I will go into my SimVimX folder in my simulator plugins folder, and I will leave the name the same, and I put save. So now that that's saved, that's all we have to do for the config file. But now we have to do the conversion, the custom conversion file. So in order to do that, we click on the button here on the upper right, and we go to convert, and then if you remember, I told you before on the other video, you do have already the name of the folder of the airplane right here. So that's already good. So you already have that one loaded in right now because you imported that old configuration file. In the future, if you want to work on this configuration file or this custom conversion, you would have to open it. So I'll show you that after we save it because right now I don't have it saved yet. So if you want to make sure that you have that file loaded in, you can click on list and you can see all the different parameters or keywords that I have made conversions, custom conversions for. So it is loaded up right now. So that's good. So now all we have to do is we click save, and once again it tells you, you're going to lose any changes, but that's not the case. So you just go ahead and put leave, but now you are not going to put it in the SimVimX folder directly. You're going to go into the convert folder, the conv folder, and you're going to save it in there. Apparently there was one for the TVM 900 that came with it when you downloaded the plugin update. So if you see the name of it, you see that it has the exact folder name, just like the configuration file, but instead of a .cfg file, this is a conv file, I guess for convert. So you click save, and that's it. So now you're done with that. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one now. So I'm just gonna refresh the page. So you put reload, and now you start over again. So once again, we go back to the configuration part of it first, and then you're going to go to your config file. I'm going to load the PA30 config file and open it. And it's once again, it's telling me that this is an old file format. Select the conversion you want to load to save it in the new format. So you click on that airplane. I imagine that if you had one of those configuration files where you had multiple custom conversion aircraft in there, it would have multiples there that you can select each one separately, so you can save each one independently. But I never did that because I was always using a separate configuration file for each airplane anyway. So now you can see the name of the file changed to PA30 underscore data because that's what I had named it, right? So once again, I'm going to have to change the name of it here. So you click on that and I go back to my file folder for where my aircraft are in X-Plane. And then I go down and look for my V-Flight Air Piper Twin Comanche, which is this one. And I'll just hit rename. And then once again, I'll click Control C for copy. Then I click out of it and put that away. Then I can delete this and put Control V or paste. You can either do that or you can do paste like that, of course. All right, once you got the exact folder name in there, once again, you click OK, and now you see that the file name has changed to the actual aircraft folder name. And I cannot reiterate this enough. You have to have the folder name exactly the way it's spelled, because if it doesn't, like if you have extra spaces in there, or if you forget to put one character in there, it's not going to use that file when you're using that airplane. So please make sure that it is exactly the same name. All right, so now that we have that name, you can save the configuration file and forget that warning. And then, so now remember, I'm back in the convert folder right now because that's where I saved the other conversion file. So I need to go back to the root of the SimVimX folder and then save it in there. Okay, so just make sure that each one of these files, you put it in the appropriate place. The config files go in the root of the SimVimX folder, and the conversion files go inside the convert folder. I'm just going to call it the convert folder, even though it's the conv folder. All right, so now we save the configuration file again. So now we go to the convert. Okay, so as we can see, the name of the airplane, because I think I had named that on my other computer, I had renamed that aircraft folder. So you can see right here that is not the correct aircraft folder name. But in this conversion section, you don't have that button over here in the middle where you can change the name. So you can click on it right here. And we can go ahead and erase that. And we should still have in memory the copy from the other one. So we can just go ahead and put Control V, and as you can see, it did change it to V-Flight Air underscore Piper Twin Comanche. So that is the correct folder name. So go ahead and put OK, and now we do have it. So we can go ahead and save it. Ignore that warning. And then make sure, once again, you go back into the convert folder, because we were before in the root of the SimVimX folder now. And now we're going to have the Cessna 172, the TBM 900 that came included, and now the Twin Comanche one. So go ahead and click save. All right. Now, one more little thing that I'm going to mention here, since we're in the subject of conversion files. Remember I mentioned that before we had that plane or rsc dot planes dot dat file where all the custom conversions that Vlad had already included were in there. So now we're not going to be able to do that. So what we need to do now is you need to go to, like, let's say you use for example, let's just say the DA62, for example. So you can click either here or here to load it. Okay, so when you load it, immediately you see the list and you see that the name of the aircraft shows up right there. But remember, this is just the name of the aircraft the way they have it saved. Not, it might not be the same way you have it saved. So what we need to do once again is go back to our aircraft list, and we can look for the Diamond DA62, which is right here. And I can go ahead and click rename and Control C to copy that name, and I can minimize that. Actually, this one, he has a version 2, you see, so the name of the folder is not the same. So if I click on that, I can go ahead and delete that and paste my actual folder name, and then go ahead and click OK. And now that it's saved under the correct name, now I can go ahead and save it. Ignore that message again. Make sure you're in your conversion folder, and you're going to save it in there. And that's it. So now if we go back to our folders here, let's go back to the plugins folder, SimVimX. Okay, and if we go to the convert folder, you can see that now we have 4 conversion files in there. All right, so now we go back to, now we don't need my old previous version config files. So just make sure that I delete that one, which was one of my old ones, and then I can delete my pa30.config. So because we don't need those anymore. And if you don't have any more airplanes or any more things that you need to convert, I guess you can get rid of the devices.prf file. But I guess it doesn't really matter, because if you notice now, if you open up the, for example, the Airflow Labs Cessna 172, actually this one doesn't have any for some reason at the bottom. Probably because I don't have any radios or autopilots or anything like that, but it would be right there if it did have it. So you don't need that file anymore. Let me see if the Piper Twin Comanche has anything in there. Nope, that one doesn't have anything either. I believe that those mostly they get saved, the preferences, when you have something like the navigation radios, the communication COM1, COM2 radios, the ADF, autopilot systems. You know, a lot of the systems that have a lot of custom SimVim commands or data refs, I think those are the ones that save those preferences. But I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, you can leave it there for the time being. I don't think it hurts anything because it's not going to use it anymore. It will just use it for when you do these conversions. Okay, so now that's pretty much all you have to do to convert your existing files, and also to download some of the ones that they're working on this website. Obviously, you can see there's only 3 of them that are completed, and these other ones are pretty much almost completed. But then there are some like this one here, the Pilatus PC6, which is barely getting started. And you can always download these and continue working on them yourself if you want to add certain keywords or parameters, you know, that you need right away. And it probably, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to keep copies of anything that we work on automatically. When you're working on them, they get probably downloaded to their server or not. But I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to share it if you are able to complete one of these. That way you pretty much, you know, give it back to the community, and anybody else who needs it can also download it. But all right, so now that we saved, now that we have a custom conversion files saved, now this is where I can show you that now you can go ahead and open one. So for example, if I go back to my conversion folder here, and you see the 4 that I already have, let's say I wanted to continue working on my Cessna 172 one, I can just select that one and open it, and then that one's already loaded now. So remember, whatever name you have up here is the conversion file that you have loaded. Okay, so I think that for now, that's pretty much all I'm going to mention about this, about conversions and all that stuff, because this video is not about how to do and how to work with custom conversions yet. This is only how to convert your old config files into the new format config files and conversion files. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a day on this one. And as always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.